Bring out the JBLs. I'm watching the entire MCU catalog before Avengers Doomsday drops. I'm breaking down how each movie and show holds up, what actually matters to the larger MCU, and whether it's worth the rewatch. Doomsday is coming. Let's prepare. This is Doomsday Prepping. Alright, so The Incredible Hulk is the second movie released in the MCU. Like Iron Man, it was also released in 2008. So once again... Happy New Year! Actually, wait, no, hold on. We gotta go back to the 90s. Sorry, maybe I just like the 90s, alright? So, in my Iron Man video, I covered Marvel's whole bankruptcy scare and how they had to sell most of their character rights in order to stay afloat. But to be more specific, they didn't sell the actual rights to their characters, just the movie rights. Marvel still had full creative control of all their characters in the comics, but the film rights is what they sold off, and those were the big moneymakers. So you may have already guessed it, but one of the characters they sold off was the big green angry monster man that we all know and love. Come on, let's say it together. Somebody. No, wait, sorry, whoops. There he is. There's my guy. Yeah, it's the Incredible Hulk. Although, fun fact, the Hulk was not even originally green. He was gray. Stan Lee wanted the Hulk to be more spooky and sad and kind of depressing, a man who struggles with his inner monster. But the gray in the comics printed incorrectly and it was inconsistent, so they just decided to make him green because it was easier to print. So we gave him a fresh coat of green paint, slapped a ton more muscles on him, and sent him off to the races. The Hulk was also apparently inspired by an old comic called The Heap. Heap video coming soon, guys. Okay, so back to the point. The Hulk was just an iconic character. I mean, his color, his name, his size, he just stood out amongst other superheroes. He had a pretty successful show in the 70s that lasted for 5 years, and he's often seen as Marvel's first real live-action success. So because of all of that, in the 90s when Marvel had to sell their movie rights, the Hulk was one of the first ones picked. Remember in school when they had to pick teams for the sports, and all the nerdy kids were picked last, and all the cool popular kids thought they were so cool, but then the nerds were all like, oh yeah, laugh it up now, one day you'll be working for me. Well, that's pretty much what happened with the MCU, except the Hulk kind of got in on a technicality. So the company that bought the movie rights for the Hulk was Universal Pictures. And when it came time for the early 2000s superhero movie boom, Universal decided it was their turn.
We have a Hulk.
Except this was the Hulk that they had. Yeah, so let's talk about the green elephant in the room. We can't really discuss the 2008 Incredible Hulk before we talk about the 2003 less incredible Hulk. And trust me guys, this is important and it's all going to come into play in the larger MCU, I promise. Just bear with me. And yes, because I am a good and faithful captain, I did actually sit down and watch the old Hulk movie as well, for context. Also, did you know it's really hard to find this movie anywhere? It's not on any of these streaming services. I actually had to rent it from YouTube. I think Universal is really trying to keep this movie buried. So without getting too carried away and starting a whole recap video within a recap video, I'll just say this very quickly. Hulk 2003, it's well... yeah, they made some choices. You can flip a coin in the nerd community, and I think it's like 50-50, with half the people saying that the movie is absolute garbage, and the other half saying it's an underrated masterpiece of superhero films. But I think even the people that enjoy this movie can admit it's a little weird.
I was so impatient.
There's this one scene where Bruce is doing something and he has a flashback to a time when he was happy with Betty. And in the flashback, Betty starts telling him about a dream that she had, but maybe the dream is actually a memory. But in that memory, the present day Bruce Banner shows up and tries to kill her. I mean, what is this? Kingdom Hearts?
Your memory is a train wreck.
And the people that defend this movie actually do kind of make a solid point that it sticks to the original vision of the Hulk. It was supposed to be kind of gritty, depressing, and Bruce had a lot of pent-up trauma that he has to process. But how did the movie hold up with 2003 modern audiences? Yeah, not great. Turns out people in 2003 didn't really care about watching Bruce deal with his generational trauma as much as they just wanted to see Hulk smash! Which this movie did have some pretty good Hulk smashing sequences, not gonna lie. But I'm pretty sure Bruce is only in his Hulk form for about 15 to 20 minutes of this 2-hour movie. So ultimately, yeah, it was a financial letdown. Not necessarily a huge flop, but you have to realize that Universal thought that this movie was gonna be their cash cow. Wait, why am I even talking about this movie again? Take a look at this!
Jesus Christ, Charlie. That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail.
Oh yeah, it's because after the letdown of this movie, Universal dragged their feet when it came to producing a sequel. And because of this, the production rights for a Hulk movie reverted back to Marvel, but not the distribution rights. Okay, listen, you're gonna have to get a very good lawyer to explain all of this legal mumbo jumbo to you, and even some of the research I found online contradicts itself. So let me explain it like this. Imagine you're a kid and you have a core group of friends and you want to go hanging out with your friends. But one of the people in your friend group has a weird rule that everywhere they go, their older sibling has to come and tag along with. Also, that older sibling takes half of their money. So Marvel reacquired the Hulk rights back, but not all the way, but kind of. Totally not confusing at all. And yes, feel free to go in the comments now and explain it if you want, but it was really tough finding a straight answer. I tried my best. I'm not a lawyer. So Kevin Feige gets that big promotion we talked about in my last video, and he's kicking off the MCU. They choose Iron Man to be their first movie, but remember, Iron Man was their Hail Mary, and they were making unconventional decisions with that movie. They ended up paying off, but what was their backup plan in case Iron Man flopped? There's an expression that goes, don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Please don't put your eggs in me.
If you've ever watched Survivor, the contestants often do a thing called splitting their vote, meaning that they all plan to vote off one contestant, but in case that vote fails or gets blocked or somehow, they have everyone else write down another name as a contingency plan. I'd like to think that this movie, The Incredible Hulk, was their split vote. See, unlike Iron Man, everyone knew who the Hulk was. His character design is just so easily recognizable. It's kind of like how everyone just knows who Pikachu is, even if they don't know why they know it.
You talk to Pikachu, and he actually listens.
So Kevin already knew he wanted to use the Hulk in the Avengers, so they decided to start with a solo movie first. And they specifically chose to play it safe this time. The screenwriter, Zach Penn, wanted to distance this project from the 2003 Hulk by making this movie less psychological and introspective, and more like your typical action film. It's actually pretty hilarious when you compare the directors of the 2003 Hulk to the 2008 Incredible Hulk. So you have Ang Lee, who directed Sense and Sensibility, and went on after to direct Brokeback Mountain and The Life of Pi. These are complex, introspective films with nuance and depth. But remember, the audience, they didn't love that. So for this new Hulk, we go with Louis Leterrier. Oh, a French filmmaker, you say? I bet he's made some pretty highbrow, complex movies as well.
The Transporter! The Transporter 2! And the Fast and Furious 10!
Yeah, and these are movies with nuance and depth. So you can clearly see the new direction that Marvel wanted to take the Hulk. Except the problem is, they didn't want to do another origin story. It had only been 5 years since the last movie. To put that into perspective, that's the length of time between Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Endgame. It's a pretty short time to be retelling another origin story of the exact same character. Not that it ever stopped Batman. But they also didn't want to do a sequel because Universal was running the show last time and they wanted to go with cool new Transporter 2 Action Hulk and not with sad, depressing, cry in the corner Hulk. So what do you get when you make a movie that's not a reboot and it's also not a sequel? You get what's called a soft reboot.
What the hell does that mean?
Remember in Cars 2 when Mater became a literal super spy, and then in Cars 3 they never acknowledge it in any way at all and it never happened and don't ask questions about it? Yeah, that's a soft reboot. It kind of feels like being gaslit by a movie studio.
Reality can be whatever I want.
Seriously, watching this movie is like being put in some kind of boomer movie-watching simulator. The Incredible Hulk starts with the opening credits, and you have all these cool, cheesy 2000s effects, and the exposition is flashed at you so quickly, you just have to try to absorb everything as fast as you can. Laboratory equipment. Okay, wait, stop. Can we go back? Wait. Better hope you weren't running late to the movies, because I guess you're gonna miss all of the backstories for the three main characters. So then as you watch the movie, you're kind of saying, wait, who is this? Oh, wait, that's his daughter? Wait, where are we?
In Guatemala.
And then you really do feel like a boomer who can't follow a very basic movie plot. It's like you're watching a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist. There's a scene in the movie where Bruce goes to meet an old friend so he can crash at his place. And when he gets there, I'm like, am I supposed to know this guy? Wait, did I miss a scene? So the main reason I even went back to watch the original Hulk was to see if it helps to contextualize the movie in any way. And yeah, it actually kind of does. You have to do a little bit of mental gymnastics because all of the actors are different and the origin of how he got his powers are different, but you do get a much better sense of who these characters are. Okay, so the soft reboot is ready, and now we need a star. So who do you get to play a character who has deep inner psychological trauma? You get Edward gosh darn Norton. That's who you get. No spoilers for Fight Club because I'm not supposed to talk about Fight Club, but if you've seen the movie, then you know why Edward Norton was the perfect choice for this role. And it works out really well because even though Edward Norton isn't like a typical action movie star, Bruce Banner is never the one that does the big fight scenes anyway. So it's actually a really good casting. Seriously though, if you haven't seen Fight Club, go watch Fight Club. Okay, so we have our Hulk, we have our director, we have our studio, and we have each other. Let's watch this thing. Before I officially start the recap, I want to say thanks so much for watching. Without getting into too much detail, my first video really took off, which I was not expecting. So thanks to all my fellow Doomsday Preppers out there. It's been great reading your comments and chatting with you all. If you haven't already, consider liking and subscribing to this video. The algorithm really likes it. Even if you comment LOL Hulk green butt cheek, then it still counts as engagement and it boosts the video. Let's watch the Hulk. Dang it, it's the wrong tape. Who switched the tapes? So we start with the early 2000s opening credit sequence. And I'm just not a big fan of these. If you already know who the Hulk is, then you don't need to see this. And if you don't know who the Hulk is, this doesn't do a very good job of explaining anything. But basically, Bruce Banner is the Hulk. Although this scene is pretty good for one reason, because we get to see General Ross do whatever this is. What is he doing? So we see this guy named Bruce Banner. He's living in Brazil. He's on the run. And he's just, he's struggling out here. He's eating cereal and he's watching Sesame Street and he's taking yoga classes. Wait, is he supposed to be having hard times right now? Because this sounds pretty chill, honestly. I would live this life. But what he's actually doing is he's learning to control his powers. Because according to the Wikipedia article that you're supposed to read before going into the theaters, he turns into a big green monster if his BPM goes over 200. So Bruce works at some kind of Mountain Dew factory with the most beautiful girl in all of Brazil. Seriously, are we supposed to think this chick is just roughing it in this factory? She would be like a supermodel or something. So since Bruce is some kind of like super genius, his boss is having trouble with like the Mountain Dew generator. And he's like, hey man, can you come upstairs and try to fix this? But then when he goes fix it, ouch, he gets a big bobo. And then some cartoon blood falls way down into one of the Mountain Dew bottles. So Bruce runs downstairs and he's like, guys, shut off the machine, emergency. So they shut it off and then he goes to clean up his blood. But turns out he's not a super genius at all. He's actually a big dingus because he didn't even think about the fact that his blood could spill in more than one drop. So one of the drops of blood gets into one of the Mountain Dew bottles. Uh-oh.
That's nasty.
So after his shift is done, he's ready to go home, but then he sees his Boothang getting approached by some shady characters. And you can tell they're up to no good because they're bald. And of course, Bruce has to step in and help because as you're soon gonna learn from this movie, Bruce is a D1 simp. So we get back to Bruce's apartment and he starts doing some science. He's trying to figure out a way to cure his Hulk powers. So he's got this exotic flower that he gets from some guy in the streets and he's gonna try to synthesize an antidote with it. But it doesn't work because he forgot to sing the magic song. Flower gleaming. So after his antidote fails, he goes on to AOL Messenger and he goes chat online with some guy named Mr. Blue.
Oh, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
So Mr. Blue is like some kind of scientist guy, and Bruce messages him and says, what the hell, bro? My flower didn't even work. And Mr. Blue is like, send me your blood, and I can run some tests. So Bruce is like, yeah, okay, I'll send you my blood. So meanwhile, we see this old guy, and he wants a cool, crisp Mountain Dew from his fridge. So he grabs it, but he doesn't know that it's Bruce's cursed Mountain Dew bottle with the gross blood in it. So he takes a sip, and then boom! This was actually my exact reaction the first time I tried Baja Blast. So the incident report of this gamma poisoning makes it back to some army guy named General Ross. So he puts together a team to go track down Bruce. And he gets a specialist from England named Emil Blonsky. And he's really good at tracking people down. So we go back to Bruce and he's still chatting online with Mr. Blue. And Mr. Blue says, hey, your blood is cool and all, but we need more data. And Bruce says, the only data is with my ex-girlfriend, and I can't put her in danger because I'm a big simp. But then all of a sudden, boom, 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 Emil Blonsky shows up in his apartment out of nowhere. And Bruce is like, uh-oh. So Bruce sneaks downstairs. Oh, and he just so happens to end up in the apartment of the hot girl while she's changing.
Obrigado.
Come on, Bruce, you're worse than Tony. So then Bruce starts running and they do some cool parkour all over the city.
Michael, parkour! Parkour!
So Bruce is almost getting away, but then he runs into the bald boys from earlier, and he's like, ruh-roh. So then they start beating him up, but surprise, they don't know that he's actually the Hulk. So when he turns into the Hulk, they're like, whoa. And then Emil shows up and finally catches up to him, and he's like, blimey. So the Hulk just starts smashing these guys around like it's nothing. And then he blows something up, and then he gets away. So then the army guys regroup, and Emil says, what the bloody hell, mate? And Ross says, yeah, if Bruce can turn into a giant unstoppable green monster when he gets upset, I forgot to tell you. Whoopsie, whoopsie. So Bruce decides it's time to go home. And on his way back to the US, he stops in Mexico. So that way he can pick up a pair of stretchy pants.
¿Tienes más stretchy?
When you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
So then Ross is back at HQ and he's talking to Emil. And he goes, hey, have you heard of Captain America? Yeah, I know that wanka. Well, the Hulk is like Captain America, except that we did a really bad job. It was a huge mistake and we ended up creating a monster that we can't kill. You want to do it again? So then they just inject Emil with some monster juice. But just a little bit. Just a little. So Bruce made it back to America and he's wearing the Marvel baseball cap disguise so no one recognizes him. Then he starts stalking his ex-girlfriend and he sees her with another guy and now he's sad. It's not easy being green. But then he remembers why he's there in the first place, and it's to get the data. So he goes on a sneaky mission, and he bribes his security guard with a pizza. And he makes his way back into the lab where he used to work, and then he bribes one of the guys in there with the pizza too. Pizza plays a big role in the MCU, guys. But when he gets there, the data's all gone. Dang it. So Bruce is hiding out in this pizza place that him and Betty always used to go to, but then Betty shows up. Man, they must have gone to this pizza place like every night, because that's a big coincidence. So the one person Bruce is trying to avoid is in the same place he is, and he just pops out the door and is like, whoa, oh, nope, you didn't see me. And he wasn't wearing his baseball hat, so she definitely recognized him. And eventually she like leaves the restaurant and catches up to him, and she's like, oh, well, now you're back. Just screw my other boyfriend, I guess.
Babe, wait. Babe, wait. Babe, wait. Babe. Babe, wait.
So they get to talking, and guess what? Betty hid the data from the lab and put it on a goober.
There's always a bypass key, a virus key, a who cares key I can never remember, so I always call it a goober.
But then eventually the military guys track them down, so Bruce tries running away. But this time, Emil has super speed. So Bruce pretty much knows he's gonna get caught, so he swallows the goober to protect. But then the military guys corner him and smoke him out. So then Bruce makes a big poopy face and he transforms. And he comes out as peak Hulk. And they do this really cool camera effect, like, whoa, whoa. And honestly, this part is just really cool. It's a great action sequence. So they start trying to take down the Hulk, but then Blonsky comes up and he's like, hello, governor. And he starts fighting the Hulk and he's going toe to toe with him. But the Hulk is just way too peak, so he really can't keep up. So then Ross is watching the whole thing and then he goes, bring out the JBLs. And then they just start blasting Fetty Wap at full volume. But then the Hulk, he just can't handle it anymore. So then he goes, pow, and he blows them all up. But now Blonsky's getting upset and he's getting a little too cocky. So he unplugs his headset and then he's like,
My father will hear about this.
and then Hulk just kind of Sparta kicks him into a tree. So then Betty realizes, wait, this guy's a simp. I could totally get him to calm down. So she tries to step in, but then a helicopter comes in and crashes. And Ross is like, no! Because Betty is actually his daughter. What? Oh, wait, maybe we were supposed to already know that from the beginning. I'm not really sure. It happened too fast. But then the Hulk, last minute, he saves her. And then he does a cool pose. Bro, dude, this Hulk has so much aura. Like, look, this is, oh my goodness. So then we fast forward to after the fight, and the Hulk brought Betty to this cave, and he's been kind of protecting her and looking after her. Man, I actually really love this part where he gets mad at the lightning, and then he tries to throw a rock at it. I feel like this 30 seconds of the movie does a great little characterization of the Hulk. So now we're back with the army guys, and then Ross walks in and sees Blonsky, and Blonsky's not looking too good, because before he was like, hello, governor, and now he's like, goodbye, governor. So Betty and Bruce are finally alone. Bruce is back in his human form, and bro's riz is just immaculate. So one thing leads to another, and they start kissing, and then Bruce is all like, Hulk smash. But then his heart monitor starts going off, and he's like, Hulk no smash. It's not easy being green. So then we go back to the hospital to check on Blonsky one more time, and they're like, hey, you gotta call his family because this guy's dead. But then they walk in and suddenly he's all better because he's been juicing and now he has healing powers. Guys, don't do drugs. It's not gonna give you healing powers. So Bruce finally goes to meet Mr. Blue, and he's like a wacky mad scientist. And Tim Blake Nelson actually does a very good job portraying him. He's very entertaining.
I don't know.
So now they have all the data and they have all the blood, and Mr. Blue can finally make an antidote, but they need him to be in his Hulk form for it to take effect. So they strap the Hulk down with these tiny little leather straps because everyone knows that the Hulk's true weakness is actually just leather. No, just kidding. He totally busts out of the chair, and once again, Betty has to use her scent powers to calm him down, but then Mr. Blue kicks the computer. And it looked like the antidote works. He's cured or stable or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention for the science part. So then the military tracks them down a third time. They're getting pretty good at that. But now Blonsky's been on the sauce a little too long, so he's just going crazy.
Show him to me.
They end up capturing Bruce, and Ross sees him and he's like, I'll see you in Azkaban, buddy. And Betty comes up and she's all like,
Daddy, I love him!
but then Blonsky sneaks back in to see Mr. Blue because now he's just genuinely tweaking, and he's like, you got any more of that monster juice? And Mr. Blue's like, hell yeah, science, let's do it. But Blonsky's mixture is just random instead of calculated, so instead of turning into the Hulk, he just like turns into this. And then he challenges Michael Jordan to a basketball game. So these military guys are on a helicopter, and they're all like, hey, Ross, there's a monster down here. You better turn around. And Bruce is like, wait, you guys created another monster? And Ross is like,
Did I do that?
so then Bruce looks and he sees the monster, and he's like, Michael Jordan's never going to stand a chance against that guy. I have to go fight and protect the city. So Bruce jumps off the helicopter and he tries to do a cool superhero landing, but then he just crashes into the ground, and it's pretty funny. It's a good bit. And now we're in Act 3, baby. Final battle. So the Hulk gets up out of the ground and he's like... And then, honestly, this fight is just so cool. I don't even have many jokes to make here. Louis just cooking for 20 minutes straight. He must have had Ratatouille powers or something. Like, why is this fight scene from 2008 one of the best fight scenes in all of the MCU? The Hulk rips a car in half and uses it as boxing gloves. I mean, come on! So the gunship guy's watching the fight happen, and then he's like, which one do I shoot? Who's the bad guy? I can't tell. It's the bald one! Shoot the bald one! But then the helicopter crashes, and the Hulk puts out the fire with the thunderclap. And the sound design here is just, it's chef's kiss. But then he hits Abomination with the hardest Hulk smash that you'll ever hear, and then he chokes him out. And it's like, it's really cool. But then, of course, Betty is like, no, stop. Yeah, and he doesn't finish him off. But honestly, the timing was pretty good for Betty because that would have been terrible PR. So then the Hulk wins the fight. And all the people are standing around watching, and he's like, bye, Felicia. And then he leaves, and then he never sees Betty again. The end. So now some time has passed, and Bruce is meditating. And then all of a sudden, he smiles. And the audience is like, whoa, cool. He finally figured out how to control his Hulk powers. That should be cool to see in the upcoming movies.
Why the you lying?
Okay, so there's the Incredible Hulk. This movie has good and bad elements. Let's talk about the bad first so we can end on a positive note. Also, I have my own surprise twist at the end of this review, so stick around to the end. So since this movie isn't technically a sequel to the 2000 Hulk, I have to be fair and treat this like a standalone movie. And unfortunately, the movie starts and you just kind of feel disconnected with the characters. We jump in at the middle of everyone's journey. Bruce has already been the Hulk, Betty and Bruce are already exes, Ross has already seen the Hulk. One of the most important elements of storytelling is the hero's journey, where you see a character's arc unfold from the very beginning. And it doesn't have to be an origin story every time, but you at least want mini arcs that you can connect to. You can have episodic movies like Star Wars, where each movie tells a complete contained story, or you can have direct sequels like Lord of the Rings, where the time between movies is almost non-existent. But this movie feels like neither. It feels like Bruce, Betty, and Ross are all halfway through their hero's journey. We only saw about 2 seconds of it in the opening credit sequence. We do, however, get Emil Blonsky's journey from start to finish with his villain arc, and it's actually handled pretty well. The most intriguing plot point in this movie is watching his descent into madness, although I think it would have been more impactful if he started out as a good, wholesome family man trying to serve his country, but then his lust for power corrupts him. Instead, he kind of starts out as a jerk. He shoots Bruce's dog in the beginning of the movie. So his journey goes from evil to crazy evil. But every other character kind of starts and ends in the same place. Hulk begins the movie in isolation, learning to control his powers, and he ends the movie in isolation, learning to control his powers. Betty starts the movie separated from Bruce, and she ends the movie separated from Bruce. Ross starts the movie looking for the Hulk, and ends the movie looking for the Hulk. Or he gave up, maybe? I don't know, it's unclear. But they're all static characters. You could argue that Bruce's little smirky grin at the end of the movie means he's completed a character arc and mastered his abilities, but the next time we see him, that's completely retconned.
And what if the other guy says no? You've been more than a year without an incident. I don't think you want to break that streak.
Same with Ross. Maybe the lesson he learned is that we can trust the Hulk and trust all powered people, but his later actions in the other movies shows otherwise. Even the post-credit scene of Tony running point on recruiting the Avengers gets retconned, because in the next movie, he doesn't even want to be in the Avengers.
I told you I don't want to join your super secret boy band.
So what was this movie for? What have we accomplished here? The only real long-term payoffs we have are for Abomination and Leader, but those payoffs come way later. As far as the plot goes, this movie's pretty basic. It's an on-the-run fugitive story, then it leads to a fetch quest, and then it leads to a final battle. There's really no twists or turns or surprises. It kind of goes exactly how you think it's going to go. If you imagine that the MCU doesn't exist and this is just a single standalone movie, it's pretty basic. And if you put it into the larger context of the MCU, then it really just feels like a filler episode. Not that filler episodes are bad, but they just aren't required to watch. So there's the bad, but what about the good? The casting director of this movie needs a raise. The plot didn't have a lot of substance, but every actor understood the assignment. I'm a huge Edward Norton fan, and I just love the way he speaks and delivers lines. I just wish he had more lines to deliver. He's pretty quiet and stoic for the first act of this movie. William Hurt, rest in peace, gives us a very good Ross. Look at him without a mustache. I didn't even recognize him. And then you get the Liv Tyler. I mean, if you're gonna give the Hulk someone to simp over, then Liv Tyler was a great cast. She was like the ultimate nerd crush.
I would rather share one lifetime with you and face all the ages of this world alone.
The duo of Tims also killed it. Both of them were very entertaining to watch. The themes of power in this movie were also pretty well established. Bruce spends the entire story trying to get rid of his power, while Blonsky tries to keep acquiring more power, and eventually their paths cross. And finally, the highlight of this film, the third act. I wasn't kidding earlier when I said that this fight sequence is one of the best in the MCU. It's just so raw and visceral. I mean, did I mention that the Hulk rips a car in half and uses it for boxing gloves? I never got a chance to see this movie in theaters, but I bet it was immaculate with the sound and everything. Okay, so the final verdict. What would I grade this movie? Honestly, I think the best I can give it is like a C+. I hate to use the B word, but the first half of this movie is just a little boring. When they distance themselves from the 2003 Hulk, I think they went too far in the other direction. Maybe the first Hulk was a little strange, but it was entertaining, and I enjoyed watching it more than I was expecting to. So here's where things get complicated. Is this movie worth the rewatch? By itself? No, I honestly don't think so. If you want to see a really cool fight scene, skip to the last 30 minutes of the film and just sit back and enjoy. But nothing established here can't be picked up later with context clues. You can basically watch The Avengers without ever having seen this movie, and all you need to know is this guy turns green when he's angry, and you'll basically be caught up. That's actually how most people experience The Avengers for the first time, because The Incredible Hulk was the lowest performing box office MCU film for a very long time, and The Avengers was a smash hit. So statistically, most of the people that went to see The Avengers hadn't watched The Incredible Hulk solo movie. But I'll be honest, watching the two Hulk movies back to back, it unlocks the character in a whole new way.
Oh my God. I get it.
You just have to force your brain into thinking that these are all the same people. But if you can do that, and if you have time to sit through the length of these combined movies, then the rewatch is actually pretty good. I think these movies complete each other in ways that the other one lacks. If they could fuse together into a single movie and take the best parts of each, I think you would have an A movie on your hands. But The Incredible Hulk was a product of studio mismanagement and trying too hard to not repeat previous mistakes. And by doing so, they had another disappointing box office return on their hands. Oh well, maybe they'll create a perfect Hulk movie one day when they finally make the sequel. Wait, what's that? They're not gonna make a sequel? Yeah, so fans have been wanting more Hulk movies for a really long time, but apparently Universal just doesn't really play nice, and they don't want to share the Hulk.
They don't know how to play well with Marvel.
I get it, my 2-year-old doesn't want to share either. Sony managed to make a great partnership work with Spider-Man, so I don't understand why Universal can't see that it would be beneficial for everyone. Now, Marvel Studios has found sneaky ways to adapt Hulk stories in the MCU without breaking copyright.
So take that, Universal! Now what are you gonna do?
See, apparently the way it works is if you use Hulk in the title of the movie at all, then Universal owns the distribution rights. But anything else with the character is fair game. So can we all just agree to rename him or something? We can just call him Hank and everyone will know, right? Would that be legally okay? And also, how did She-Hulk get through? Hulk is in the title, but I guess she's a different character, so it's okay? Can we make a Disney Plus show and just call it He-Hulk? Like I said, legal issues aren't really my specialty. But you know what is my specialty? Making really dumb, long videos about the MCU and growing a cool community of fans. So if you made it this far, I take it you're joining my Doomsday Prep mission. And I have to once again say, thank you. This is only episode 2, and I had no idea where this series was headed. I posted my first video and got a few hundred views, and I was like, wow, people like the video. And then I woke up the next day to thousands of new views, and then subscribers kept pouring in, and then I had a ton of comments of people being really nice and encouraging on the internet. I didn't even know you were allowed to be nice on the internet. I also have to give a huge shout out to my coffee supporters. You guys are the OG supporters of the channel, so thanks to Gus, Roxaro, No Nickname, Some Dumb Guy, Napfish, Joe Orange Tree, Internal Pancake, and Cactus Cian. And not to mention my first ever supporter, Goji Fish, who supported 2 times, my first monthly subscriber, Beagle Boy, and Michael, who gave the highest donation. So you guys, yeah, y'all are really the best. I work a full-time job, but it's not the world's best paying job, and it takes up a ton of my time. So I'm currently editing most of these videos late at night, and anytime I can cram in a few minutes here and there. My long-term dream is to do this full-time, so I can make content faster and make all kinds of different videos. So if you'd like to support me at all, the link is in the description. So let's wrap this episode up. The Incredible Hulk wasn't a huge hit or a commercial success, but it was the first Marvel film to bridge the gap and connect to another, eventually leading to a shared universe that we now know as the MCU. And the Hulk would play a huge role in this world. But as for the question of who is the best Hulk, or when did the Hulk peak, well, it's a tricky one. I asked you guys to vote for your favorite, and the results clearly show Mark Ruffalo as the favorite. And to be honest, that's a pretty good answer. When you look at the number of movies, Mark Ruffalo had several chances to flesh out his character with multiple directors and movies. The other two were kind of stuck with what they had. Eric Bana only had a chance to play the origin of the character, so we never really got to see him play a regular Bruce Banner living day to day with his Hulk abilities. Edward Norton was really excited about the character, and he even said in interviews that he's a huge fan of the comics and he views Bruce as like a Greek tragic character. But he got paired with a director that specialized in action-forward blockbusters. Norton actually had creative differences, and that's ultimately why he never came back to play the Hulk again. So for most people, Mark Ruffalo is the obvious answer for who's the best Hulk. And that's because we got to see his full range. He was sad, funny, epic, intelligent, and everything in between. But as for who my favorite Hulk is, well, I have one clip I have been saving for the end that speaks for itself. Somebody